Gus Malzahn out at Auburn. Was it justified? Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, breaking down the game we love each and every day. Best discussion, debate, and analysis. That's our goal. That's our aim. That's our mission. We got Vernon Speaks Sports on the line. Join him right here on YouTube, talking Auburn football on a regular basis. Vernon Speaks Sports. Yes. How you doing today?
Man, I'm doing great today, Mark. Want to give a big war eagle to all the Auburn fans out there and even some of the SEC followers that come on my channel. Definitely appreciate that. And always love stopping by Mark Rogers TV to give my take on Auburn football. Any other questions you may have regarding the rigorous SEC conference.
We would ask everyone to like the video, share it out there on social media, let people know that Vernon Speaks Sports is around, and myself as well. When you subscribe, you hit the bell for the notifications and know when we go live, which is every day. All right, Gus Malzahn out. I don't think this was a clear-cut situation in regards to him failing to meet expectations and it being clear to see, but at the same time, losing 4 to 5 games every year since 2013 is not necessarily meeting expectations. So I certainly see the merit to both sides of the argument. Your thoughts about Gus Malzahn and whether the firing was justified?
You know, at the surface, I can't honestly say that the firing was totally justified. But then when you think about where the SEC is trending and some of the success of his rivals, now Texas A&M has become a pretty tough rival for Auburn now a justified rival. They've had a really interesting encounter since they've entered the conference. Usually the home team wins, or all of that kind of stuff. And Texas A&M is actually trending in a very positive direction, relatively new to the conference. Then you look at LSU, although they've had the backslide this year after winning the national championship. They are still recruiting wise trending toward a direction of where they can have long-term success. And we don't even have to mention the success of Georgia and Alabama at this point. So what I think the administration was starting to see, that based on recruiting, based on the outcome of this year, I just don't think they saw any upward mobility that would lead one to think that Auburn is going to be able to justifiably compete with these teams year in and year out based on what the performance on the field has been.
Yeah, to justify Gus Malzahn's tenure at Auburn, first of all, he splashed big in the first year. There's no question about that. The biggest turnaround that I can think of, and I've challenged people this a number of times to say, who has turned around a program that quickly from 3-9, 0-8 in the SEC, takes over his first year, they go to the BCS championship game and come within second. So maybe he set the standard a bit too high, or the expectations.
Well, he definitely did, especially having the success that he had his first year. And, if people really look at how that was accomplished, I thought it was accomplished in a non-sustainable kind of way. You beat Georgia, on the prayer during hair. Then you beat Alabama on a kick six. And then you basically kicked Florida State all around the field. You should have won the game, but wound up costing yourself that game. And it just had been, I wouldn't say completely downhill ever since, but he just was never able to measure up. The closest that he got was in 2017. And I would go out and say that even beating Georgia and Alabama, the two #1 teams in the country at the time that they played, the way he beat them was still not sustainable. Georgia picked that game at Jordan-Hare Stadium as the time to play arguably the worst game of the year. A lot of things that they definitely didn't repeat in the SEC championship game when Auburn was able to find themselves in a rematch with Georgia, and Alabama was depleted by injury. And I'm not taking away from the wins. They were really good wins for Auburn, but the way, if you really dissect the way they won, I just don't think it was justifiable to extend the coach's contract based on those wins. So, Gus Malzahn never won over the fans. The fans absolutely hated him. You could see it on my channel. Sometimes it got a little difficult to do commentary to even say anything good about him because the fans absolutely hated him. And even with that type of toxicity, I think it was time for Auburn to move on.
Yeah, they had the great 3-week run, as you mentioned, against Georgia and Alabama in November of 2017, lifted them to the SEC championship game. They had the disappointing rematch with Georgia, losing by 3 touchdowns, then lose. It shouldn't be on the field an embarrassing look, but in regards to a group of 5 and UCF and losing in the Peach Bowl to conclude that. So all that promise, they could have made the college football playoff as a 2-loss team for the only time that would have happened through 6 years. And then they falter the final 2 games of the season in their biggest moment since 2013. Other than that, it's been 4 to 5 losses per year. On the plus side, it's been recruiting in the top 10 to 15 in the nation. And he's run a clean program, and that can't be discounted either. He's presented himself and displayed the program in a good light this entire time. There's never been really any serious stain on a Gus Malzahn program at Auburn.
Right. Right, of course. I mean, he ran a great program. Even some of the star players who would come and have some sketchy activity going on, he kicked them off the team. You know, he did not allow lack of discipline to be a part of his program. Another good aspect about his tenure there is the players graduated. As a matter of fact, KJ Britt just graduated, the all SEC linebacker, and I think he put these guys in a position from a self-worth standpoint to be very productive, even if the NFL is off the table. I think he put those guys from a self-worth, a value standpoint, position to be very successful even in subsequent life. So hats off to Gus Malzahn for that, and a huge War Eagle forever to him for bringing that to Auburn's program.
Got Vernon Speaks Sports right here on YouTube to talk Gus Malzahn in the aftermath at Auburn and who's going to coach the Tigers in one of the tougher places to play and compete in the SEC Western Division, of course. And Gus Malzahn, 32-26 in the SEC since taking the Tigers to the BCS championship game. It's about 55% winning percentage in the conference, just not good enough to get it done there at Auburn. All right, I'm hearing all sorts of names. What names are you hearing? Who do you think's credible? Who would you like to see on the Plains?
You know, 2 of the biggest names I've heard has been, well, 3 actually, is Brett Venables, Hugh Freeze, and Mario Cristobal. I think when I look at the sum total of the 3 guys, if it were me, I would really like to see Mario Cristobal come to Auburn's program. He seemed to have been getting off to a solid start at Oregon, especially with recruiting. He has the ability, if he has the ability to recruit in the South, to lure guys up to Oregon. Matter of fact, he actually recruited a guy right out of in the Auburn area in Lynette. I can't think of his name right now, but there was a guy from Lynette, Alabama that he recruited up to Oregon. And I feel like his ties to the SEC, his experience with Alabama, with Nick Saban, and kind of seeing how to build a program. In Gus Malzahn's defense, I just don't think, when you look at his track record, high school coach for most of his career, entering to the college football ranks, I just don't think he had a solid blueprint as to what it takes to be successful in college football. I think he was kind of winging it most of the way. And the sad part about it is, from a recruiting standpoint, he actually started to get it right towards the end, because his 2018, 19, and 2020 recruiting classes, you know, if you look at the talent on the field, they out-talented most of the teams that they played this year outside of Georgia and Alabama. So whomever walks into Auburn is really set up for a relative amount of immediate success, because there's some talented players on the field. They should have beat Texas A&M. Probably should have gave Alabama. I mean, oh hell no, not Alabama, but should have definitely given Georgia a better run. Alabama is obviously in a class by themselves, but you're talking about a team talent-wise that was caliber of top 10, the lower top 10s, at least middle tier top 15 team this year.
And those top-notch group of 5 coaches usually come to the surface when a job like this opens up, especially if it makes sense geographically and they've got ties to the area, the recruiting footprint. I've heard Billy Napier from Louisiana and also Jamie Chadwell from Coastal Carolina, and they're going to face off in the conference, in the Sun Belt Conference Championship game this weekend. All right, Vernon Speaks Sports, YouTube. Got to catch him right here talking Auburn football. The Tigers concluded a 6-4 regular season. Will not play this weekend. We will await the bowl game selection that's coming up this weekend. When you look at the team, just give us an overview of what worked, what didn't work this year. Of course, most of the attention goes to Bo Nix, the quarterback. Certainly offensive line issues played into his roller coaster season.
You know, one of the most profound surprises I had from this season was the abysmal play of the defensive line. I thought that they got out physical, especially when they encountered offensive lines like Texas A&M, Alabama, Georgia. When they were outclassed from the opposing offensive line, they played absolutely terrible. You talk about situations where teams were able to run about 6+ yards per play, and not being able to control the line of scrimmage, not being able to control the down and distance really cost Auburn in secret ways that a lot of people don't account for. Now, Bo Nix in spots that showed some progression. In other spots, he showed signs of a quarterback that was incapable of getting the job done, especially when it called for him to set his just simple stuff like setting your feet, throwing the football downfield, not flushing the pocket so soon. As a matter of fact, I had a diagram of a perfect pocket, and Bo Nix immediately retreats to his comfortability, which is to the right side of the field. And he doesn't have any hash mark integrity because a lot of his passes, when he scrambles to the right, he throws, the trajectory is not really balanced to where it winds up either being an incomplete pass, a really difficult catch for the quarterback, or an interception. So I think there has to be some coach that holds him ultimately accountable for those little things, and they didn't do it. The last thing that went wrong is, I think, situational play calling by Chad Morris or Gus Malzahn, especially on first and second down, really cost the team in a lot of cases. They really didn't take advantage of chipping away. They had a good running game with Tank Bigsby. They didn't take advantage of chipping away, getting like 3 or 4 yards on first and second down to create manageable third down situations. And that cost them. That piled up over a period of time, cost them. And that's why the games they did lose, that's why they lost.
Gus Malzahn out at Auburn after, let's see, 2013 through 2020. Let me do the math. 8 seasons at Auburn on the Plains. He did a lot of good things, but ultimately losing 4 to 5 each year, not good enough at Auburn. Chatwell, Napier, Cristobal, among the names with Venables that people are talking about. National Signing Day is coming up on Wednesday, so that could be extremely key. Your thoughts about the timing of all this because of National Signing Day coming up on Wednesday, and of course, a student athlete wants to know who the head coach is going to be.
You know, I think signing day is definitely important. The initial signing day, early signing period, has become more and more important. It was definitely important last year because most of the kids who signed during the early signing period. I think this is going to be important, but I don't think it's going to be as detrimental as folks may think, because the recruiting class could only go up anyway. It's not like you had a top 5 recruiting class and everyone's bailing out. If anything, you know, maybe some of the recruits were a little sketchy on Gus Malzahn's future to begin with. You know, you look at social media, you look at his track record, you know, the writing was starting to become on the wall that he might not be there. The only question I have now is what's going to be the clause to retain some of the assistants, because he had a few good assistants there, had some that he definitely needed to lose, especially at the wide receiver position. But that would be key as to the retention of some very key assistants like Kevin Steele and Travis Williams, Carnell Williams, Jack Bicknell just got there. So it's like, where do these guys go? And is Auburn, I mean, they're going to have to be, but are they willing to pay that huge buyout for the assistants, or will there be some kind of clause of retention for those guys? That's why I think they could be going for a new guy that doesn't necessarily have a firm set of people assistant-wise. So we'll just see how that goes.
I'm checking out the 247 Sports Composite right now. I see Auburn at 42nd in the nation. You never see that.
Spectacular.
Wow. So they're usually in the 5 to 15 range. They're usually 8th, 12th, 11th, 7th in that range, and he's done a nice job recruiting. If he was in any other division in college football, the results, I'm sure, would have been better. But 42nd, 5 4-stars, and 7 3-stars with only 12 commits at this point.
Right.
Vernon Speaks Sports, right on YouTube. Check him out. Auburn football coverage right there. We appreciate you stopping by. It's good to see you, man. And we'll talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. Good to see you too, Mark. Take care, man.